Got a cold north wind today, but we're going to make some compost. Wanted to take this time to talk about the word thrive. Thriving, or thrive, if you look it up in the etymological dictionary, it's related to come here, Pickles. It's related to the word thrift. It's often associated with the thought of a plant, thriving. Okay, and it has to do with the drawing in of nourishment with a plant, and the drawing in of resources. Thrift connotates saving, slowing, storing. Later on it became thought of as being cheap or a spendthrift or something like that. And we all want to thrive. We think that thriving, if you ask 100 people on the street, some big percentage of them are going to say that thriving means having lots of money. That is true in a sense, because money is a resource. It is a source of energy. But there's other kinds of resources. There's other kinds of capital. I wanted to go over the different forms of capital. There's actually 8, and I'm not sure exactly where to start, but I think the place to start is with the 8th one, and that's cultural capital. Yeah, I want to start with cultural capital, but let me real quickly run down what the 8 forms of capital are. You have financial capital, which everybody, automatically thinks of when you think of capital, right? And then you have material capital, which is things like tools and finished products like lumber would be a material capital, or your toothpaste in your drawer. That's finished goods. That's called material capital. Okay, so financial, material. You have living capital, which is like pickles, or livestock, or the bacteria that's living in this compost heap, the worms and the bugs, the sheep, goats, things like that. In fact, that's where the word capital originally came from, because it means kaput, or caput. It's where we get capital, like capital building. All related. It refers to the head, so they would count the heads of cattle or livestock, and that was your wealth. Wealth, that's what you draw in when you thrive. You draw wealth to yourself. Now, another way of looking at it is that these are the 8 types of wealth, which is related to health, etymologically. So, financial, material, living, intellectual, the things you know, experiential, the things you've experienced. What is that, 6? 1, 2, 3, 4. No, that's 5. You have social capital, the groups that you're involved with, the people that you can influence. Man, I'm drawing a blank. Okay. Man, what is it? Financial, material, living, experiential. Oh, how could I forget this one? Spiritual. That's a little hard to define, and some people won't like the definitions that other people like. But nonetheless, we're not dealing with that today. We're going to deal with the 8th one, which is cultural capital. And there's kind of 2 levels to that. So today I'm going to start with the first level, and then later on we'll talk about the sort of meta level, if you will. I don't know what the right word for it is, but yeah. The thing that makes cultural capital different is that it is the only form of capital that can be held, it's the form of capital that can only be held by a group of people. All the other forms can be held within a person or by a person. So that could be a nation, a village, a church. It's Christmas time. Christmas is a piece of cultural capital. In order for a plant to flourish, it needs to be in the proper soil. Now, there's all types of different soil, and there's all different types of plants that flourish in those soils. If you plant a seed in good soil and give it water and all the other things it needs to draw to itself, then it's going to flourish. Culture is like that. It's the soil that humans flourish in. Well, or not. I mean, that's kind of the point. If it's bad soil, you can kind of tell by what grows in it, how good the soil in it, or what doesn't grow in it. On the surface, cultural capital is those shared things within a group of people, like songs, traditions, doing the pumpkin patch at fall to raise money for the youth group, or last Sunday we came together and sang Handel's Messiah. Those are sort of the expressions of culture. And to me, it's kind of the surface level. There's another level that I think we circle back around to the underlying level of cultural capital after we've talked about the other 7 forms of capital. At the end of the day, it's kind of the whole point. Somebody in class last week, I'm sorry, I can't remember. Everything's so new, I can't remember your name, but you said that you made the point that discipleship was what we're doing right here, and you're referring to around the table. I thought it was a good point. Jesus did talk about this. He talked about the different types of soil, and how you have to have good soil, and if a piece of insight comes into good soil, it'll flourish. And in the same way, if a person enters into a culture, they walk through the doors and they sense a culture that is good soil for them, then they're going to flourish. But it can't be the only kind of capital. Well, we'll get to that. A plant doesn't just need good soil to thrive, to flourish. It has to, have water, and it has to catch sunlight. This is pickles, by the way. Pickles. Under the soil, there has to be subtle interactions that have to take place in order for it to even receive its nourishment. So that's where the culture comes in. There has to be some things present in the culture, in the soil, for a plant to flourish. We have a couple of bunnies as part of our living capital, and besides looking real fluffy and cute, they also give us droppings and hay that they didn't eat, and their bedding is made of wood chips, and it has their urine in it. It seems like waste, but it's really good for a compost heap. And we also store up our coffee grounds. We get Stephanie brings home coffee grounds from work that she puts out of a little bucket, and when people make coffee, they put the used grounds in the bucket, and it has lots of nitrogen in it, so we add that to the compost as well. Thriving is more than just cultural capital, but at the same time, when we circle it back around, we'll see that cultural capital is sort of the pinnacle. Well, the compost is all turned for the day. It'll keep for another couple days. Hopefully get real hot inside. Thanks for taking time out to spend this time with me. Look forward to our next conversation. We'll talk about financial capital. It's kind of the most boring one. Well, maybe not. We'll see.